Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the International Relations Council for the NextGen International Leadership Program. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Natalie Friend. I'm the Education Outreach Coordinator Vista with IRC. If you're new to the IRC, we are an educational nonprofit based in Kansas City. Our goal is to create opportunities for you to learn about and discuss the world's most important issues and how they affect us all. Today is a special day. It is IRC's first Global Horizons event, which is a day for all of us to expand our horizons. For the entire day, the IRC is hosting Zoom events that cover the full range of IRC programs and a huge variety of topics. And because of generous members and donors, all of today's events are free for you to attend. I'll post a link in the chat box with more information about today's events. Please check it out and try attending an event that you haven't been to before. So I'm very excited to introduce our panelists today for the program, Sarah Martin, Anna Bazan-Mungia, and Ha Tren. So Sarah is the Special Programs Manager at Global Ties Kansas City. She has a BA in Finance from Ball State University. While her formal education is technical, her passion has always been in international collaboration. Her tenure at Global Ties KC started in high school as a youth program host and intern. She has gone on to work on the IVLP program, over a dozen youth and local exchange programs, geared to preparing the next generation of global leaders. Through that, she has become a seasoned facilitator and supporter of young people. Sarah's passion for Kansas City can be seen in all of her work as she builds bridges between the local community and the globe. Anna Mungia is a Texas native who relocated to the Kansas City area 8 years ago. Anna joined the PeopletoPeople International team 5 years ago and currently is their Vice President of Development and Strategic Partnerships. Anna is a big sister with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Kansas City, serves on their Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Board, and is a Most Wanted Auction alumni. She currently sits on the Folly Theater's Board of Directors. Anna served as the Vice President of Membership for Young Latino Professionals, a collaborative of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Anna co-chaired the Kansas City chapter of her alma mater, Texas A&M University, for 3 years. Ha Tren, in her current position as a senior statistician at Cerner Corporation, she leads the state and local government department's strategy and data science solutions on social determinants of health to improve health outcomes and promote health equity among the Medicaid populations. In addition to her primary job function, Ha continues to collaborate with Global Health Research Network to apply health disparities theories and design, research, and evaluation projects on health promotions among young generations in developing countries. Well, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. If our panelists would go ahead and turn their cameras on. Hi, Sarah and Anna, perfect, and Ha, welcome. Well, great. If you guys would mind giving a brief introduction of yourself to round out my description.
Okay, I'll begin a little bit. Thank you, Natalie, so much, and IRC for welcoming us today. We're so excited to be with you all to talk a little bit more about this awesome field. So as Natalie said, my name is Sarah Martin with Global Ties KC. So we like to say we bring the world to Kansas City, and we primarily do that through government-sponsored professional exchange programs. So these programs are actually designed and created in embassies throughout the world in order to really create designated programs for these future leaders that are really shaping global and community issues in various communities around the world. So we like to say right here, we help impact foreign policy issues right here in our own backyard through these programs and developing just professional and relationships between the world and Kansas City. So that's a little bit about what we do at Global Ties KC and how we kind of bring international to our work.
Hi, good morning. My name is Anna Mungia, and I want to begin by thanking Natalie, Matthew, and the IRC staff for the invitation to be on this panel today. I am the Vice President of Development and Strategic Partnerships for PeopletoPeople International. PeopletoPeople International was founded in 1956 by President Eisenhower, and our mission is peace through understanding. So the way I personally interpret it is the more cultures, religions, and backgrounds that we're introduced to, the more open-minded we are. And so we have so many wonderful programs. And my role as overseeing strategic partnerships is developing partnerships where we can aid our programs such as our Global Youth Forum for high school students, global mural projects, but also our international chapters, our international membership basis, and our student and adult travel programs. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Natalie, for the introductions. First of all, I would like to thank the IRC for the opportunity to be here today and represent the Diversity and Inclusion Office and to connect with all of you who work with the international communities in our local communities. So as Natalie mentions, I am a senior statistician at the state government data science team at Sono Corporations. We work with the Medicaid Department of Kansas and Montana in hosting and storing Medicaid claims data and providing support in terms of analytics and data science solutions, reports, documentation, and consultations. And this opportunity to be here with all of you today really made me think of why we work and live locally, but we think globally. So by now with the COVID-19, we know that healthcare is a global priority. So the COVID-19 is really an example of the emergence and the resurgence of infectious disease that can easily spread out in a very interconnected world. So once infectious disease has become an outbreak, it's not just only the local government, but also the global collaboration need to detect, assess, respond, and control the epidemic. So with that in mind, and regardless of your current locations, especially if you are in a healthcare professional, we're all in this together, global or local, we're all the same. In Medicaid space, we indirectly seeing and solving all of these, infectious disease claim, COVID-19 claim data on everyday basis. So everyday activity is really around creating data science solutions to close the gap in healthcare, to increase the quality of life and reduce the avoidable cost of healthcare. So for us, for our team specifically, we are slowly moving the needles on the U.S. health indicators in comparison with other OECD, in other countries with comparable measures. And especially in Medicaid populations, we know that we're working with lower income populations, and some of them, we do see a smaller proportions of the Medicaid populations are foreign born, are non-English speakers who face multiple challenges and barriers to access to the care that they needed. So that's what I do every day, which, I work and live locally in Kansas City, but I always think globally.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to have such an amazing panel with us today. I think you all bring a different perspective to international leadership and being a NextGen leader at your own company or organization. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So because you come from all sorts of different backgrounds, I'm curious to hear about what drew you into your field in the first place and what motivates you or keeps you passionate about your work today. Anna, if you want to go ahead and start.
Sure. Gosh, my parents really instilled international relations and international travel in our family at a young age. And I was very fortunate to travel the world again at a young age, and where I really feel that my passion really started to begin was I actually traveled with PeopletoPeople International as a student ambassador when I was 17 years old. So I'm originally from Texas, and to have that opportunity, it was my first time traveling abroad without family. I learned so much about myself, independence, understanding governments and religions, and I was so engulfed and just taken away by everything. It started my interest with international relations and travel. And I remember being a young girl and we'd be flying to Kansas City to visit family. And I would think to myself, wow, that person's flying to Paris or Rome or Munich, and how lucky are they? And I just feel very fortunate to know now today, it's me that's had that opportunity. And I look forward to seeing how we can instill that in the future in the next generation. So it's just been a wonderful opportunity now to have worked at PeopletoPeople International, where I've known that they're headquartered in Kansas City, but I find it to be such a blessing to live in Kansas City and work at headquarters and be at the place where it all began for me. So
that's awesome. I actually was a PeopletoPeople student as well back in the day.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
I still have my journal and lanyard. I still keep in touch with people.
As do I, yes. Yeah, I didn't go internationally like you, so it wasn't quite the start of my international
That's okay. We have great programming, so I'm so happy to hear that you're involved with that as well. So that brings such joy to my heart.
Yeah, and I didn't even know PeopletoPeople was headquartered here in Kansas City, and I grew up here. I left on my PeopletoPeople experience from here, but that's thrilling.
Well, come visit us. We're in Crown Center.
Well, wonderful. Sarah, how about you? What drew you into your field, and what motivates you or keeps you passionate about the work?
Yeah, so mine's kind of the opposite of Anna's. I got very little exposure to anything international when I was younger, through an outward sense. I was raised in Southern Missouri, which is, less diverse than it is in Kansas City. We took one family trip to Florida, which was really great, but that was pretty much it. And so I think it was almost like this, not knowing that really kind of made it something I was really passionate about. And I think it was something I was just programmed to have, this passion for other cultures and just wanting to understand people from throughout the world. I literally think it was programmed on me, because by the time I was 10, I was asking for maps on my wall and I was asking for encyclopedias. And I think it was just part of it. And it's one of those things, I haven't lost that passion at all. And I think it's because, at least in our organization specifically, we're really tied to foreign policy issues. And, foreign policy issues, they're ever evolving. And it's really based off these everyday situations, and being able for us to interact directly with the people who are impacting and affecting these situations around the world, in being able to put a face to these situations has just been ever life-changing. And I love that it's different all the time. And I'm a better person for it, for sure. So that's kind of my story a little bit.
That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, amazing. How about you? What drew you into your field, and what keeps you passionate about the work?
So my experience is a little bit different from the two panelists today. I am an immigrant. So I'm a foreigner. I speak English as a second language. So I came to the US 11 years ago for school. And when I came to the US, I came with 2 big suitcases, with 1 backpack and a carry-on that the total weight is equivalent to my own weight. So it was a really interesting story. I was completely young and had no idea what the world is like outside of my countries. And I was originally from Vietnam. That time I went through a huge culture shock. Everything is new. I do not have my family here. I do not have my best friend here. So I'm pretty much dealing with the whole world by myself at that time. So that is how my international experience is. And I feel like I'm on the other side of the table with all of us when you're talking about working with the international communities. So for me, I am one of the international member. I'm dealing with the language as a second language and also have different cultures. But really the question is about what drew me into my field as a research scientist or statistician. So when I was in Vietnam and I was in college at that time and I took a few trips, I was born and raised in the capital of Vietnam. It's a big city. It's very crowded with a lot of people. So when I took my first field trip ever, and this is really related to a travel experience, that field trip took us to a mountainous area that is border between Vietnam and China, and the mountainous area is really remoted. So there are multiple ethnic minorities group living in the area, and it was quite a shock to me to see how everything is so remote. And if you want to go to the nearest clinic, it's like 1 day away, and you have to go by walking because there's no other transportations. So at that time, it was quite an eye-opening trip to see all the ethnic minorities. They are not able to access the primary care that they needed, especially for a young woman, because I was a young woman at that time, seeing another young woman. They do not have access to contraceptive. They do not have access to prenatal care, postpartum care, and even they don't have delivery by professional, but they have to deliver their baby by traditional and unlicensed midwives. So that really increased the rate of mortalities among young mothers and babies. So that really drew me into thinking about healthcare is really one of the basic needs, but it's really not equally distributed across all groups. So that really drew me into the field of social determinant of health research and evaluations. And what motivates me or keep my passionate about my work is so for me, if a person is not in good health, so all other aspects like work, family, social circles will also be impacted. And eventually they will have poorer quality of life and even worsen their health outcomes. I'm not a health providers. I'm not treating individual patients, but as a statistician, I know that with proper use of data, we can derive results, and that is really impactful for policy at macro levels, and that would benefit a large group of people.
I think that's wonderful, and thank you for the work you're doing, because that's so important. And you know, talking about impacting policy at macro levels and things like that, I think that's where there's a lot of overlap. And you know, obviously in the work that Anna and Sarah are doing, you know, and exchanging culture and ideas, and you know, the work that you're doing is obviously improving opportunity as well. And so, thank you all for your work and sharing. How did you get to this point in your career, right? So you've come a long way from when you were first inspired, and what helped you get here? You know, was it professional associations or nonprofit boards or serving as volunteer? I know, Anna, we could start with you, because I know I mentioned that you have served with people, or sorry, not PeopletoPeople, Big Brothers Big Sisters, right?
Sure. Yes, I do believe, you know, I have a lot of family in Kansas City, which I absolutely love, but I was new to Kansas City. I didn't have, you know, that professional network just yet, or those friends that I hadn't made just yet. And so I really got involved with networking and getting involved with like young Latino professionals, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And I just feel like the simplicity of giving back has rewarded me so much. And I mean, I gave back because I cared and I wanted to help, but in return, the people that I've met, the interactions that I've had, and the doors that have opened for me have just been wonderful. And so I really do believe that, you know, as much as we do work internationally, globally, the Kansas City community is here to support us and really rally us. And so I do believe, you know, networking and hard work and listening has really helped me into getting into this field, but also just I would always look at PeopletoPeople International's website, you know, when I first moved here, and it wasn't till like year 4 that they finally had a position that I could apply for, and I was like, I got to do this, and I'm so glad I did, because now it's home. It's been very good to me. So I do definitely recommend to younger professionals, get involved, get out there, just find out what is your interest. Is it, you know, the symphony, or is it Big Brothers Big Sisters? There's just so many great community organizations here, and of course, just even with our international organizations of IRC, Global Ties, and PeopletoPeople International, we're all here to help one another and to continue to advocate for the international community too.
Absolutely. Sarah, do you have thoughts to add on that?
I think that was very well articulated, and I completely agree with what Anna said. So I actually started with Global Ties KC as a volunteer. I mean, in high school, even I hosted a student for a few weeks, and I participated in the program, which allowed me to get an internship with Global Ties KC very easily. And through that internship, it worked out really well. I mean, there was a really great, you know, bonding with the organization, and I just kind of never left. I volunteered and did everything I could for as long as I could, to the point, you know, where I just kept moving up in the organization, and it was a great experience. And in addition to that, you know, I've been doing volunteering with Junior Achievement, all sorts of opportunities throughout the community, and I just completely agree with Anna said. The more you can get involved, even just to understand, you know, first give back, that's a good enough reason as any, but I mean, to find out, like Anna said, what you're interested in. I mean, there's no better way to kind of understand what you're good at, what you're invested in, and what you can kind of have as a passion project. There's all kinds of opportunities for sure.
Absolutely. And how I'd love to hear your perspective as someone who immigrated to the United States. You know, what helped you get to this point in your career? You know, was it a community, you know, or a particular organization?
Yeah, so our immigrants, I'm not originally from around here for sure, and I do not have the family and friends and other networks that helped me to get to this point in my career. So basically, when I came to the US, I tried to join as many student associations as possible because I came here for school. So I joined the Asian American Association. So, you know, it's part of the Asian group, but it's also Asian American. So it helped me expose to the culture better. And I also joined other student association at school at that time. I even joined a swim team, and I was really bad at it. But at the same time, it helped me to acculturate myself to get to know the culture. So I so I can pass through my culture shock period in a faster rate. So that's what I did originally. So when I moved to Kansas City, I moved here with my husband, and we both got really good job opportunities around here. And at that time, I think what is the most helpful thing for me at that time is that before joining Sono, I worked in a community mental health center of Kansas City. We have like 16 different locations across Kansas City, so it's really in different parts of town. It's helped me to learn about the communities, to get to know the community better. And it's not just about the problem around behavioral health that we're seeing, but we also have other social problems that is really health related. For example, we have food scarcity, we have homelessness, and it's also helped me in terms of learning about the community resource, all of the organizations, all of the other nonprofits in the areas that can help support the homeless or in the food drive. I was really amazed with all of the effort that people put in, not just about their work, but it's also their volunteers and how like passionate people are in helping their community to thrive. So that's the most helpful tips when I moved to Kansas City. Another one that related to my professions is that joining multiple professional associations. So now I am a member of the American Public Health Association, the Population Association of America, and also the Kansas, Missouri chapters of American Statistical Associations. So through all of these professional associations, I receive the frequent updates in terms of what would be the next healthcare focus and the innovative techniques in the field. And it's also allowed me to network with other professionals and who have like very similar skill set and similar background, similar experience. It's really helped me thrive.
Yeah, I love what you all have said about, the value of volunteering and finding community that way, and of finding, joining professional associations of people like yourself. I think it's super valuable, and I know that when at the beginning of my career, a little earlier than all of you are probably, it's been something that I personally have found helpful even just now. So definitely recommend that to any of our viewers. I would love to move to the next gen part of kind of our discussion, which, talking about the role we play as younger individuals in the workforce. So as a younger professional, what unique perspective and skills do you think you've brought to your work in comparison maybe to your older colleagues? We can go ahead. I'll change it up this time if that's all right. Sarah, would you like to start?
I would love to. So I'll just start with this unofficial thing. I am the unofficial IT person for our organization. For nothing of my experience or skills is the fact of I can figure it out one way or another. So I would say that's definitely a next gen thing. But in addition to, some of the technical skills that we can bring, especially in our organization and my general network, is I think it's so key for younger people to be a part of these development of these embassy and government-sponsored programs, because when it comes down to it, the issues that we find important are going to be the issues that are kind of prioritized later on, right? So we're going to be the ones deciding what's important moving forward. Maybe, right now, but in addition to that, international relations, when it comes down to it, is an investment. Right? It's all about relationships. It's all about development. And those relationships and all of our initiatives, they are not created in one day, right? It's an investment. It's something that has to be sustaining. And so for this younger generation to be a part of the issues, the implementation now is such an investment, and it provides so much great sync between the two, right? That we're affecting these issues, which are later on hopefully going to have some impact and effect that isn't going to happen in a day, is really key. And I love that we're able, as a younger generation, to be a part of those decisions right now. I definitely think that is one of the most valuable perspectives that we can bring as young professionals within this international sphere, for sure.
Absolutely. I personally, I completely agree. I think that was really well said. Or Anna, do you have anything to add in terms of, what you're bringing as a younger professional to the space?
I completely echo what Sarah just said. I mean, that was beautifully said. And I also think that, the next generation, we're in the digital age. So continuing to, advocate in your social media platforms and just bringing more attention to international relations and I think it's just so important. And I know in my organization, we have a great mix of, different ages, and just really thinking outside the box on, hey, well, let's continue to advocate this, but let's bring it to the social media platforms, and let's do Travel Tuesdays, or, and trying to really like keeping people incorporated and informed of what's happening, globally, but also inside Kansas City as well. So yes, I love what you said, Sarah, completely.
Yeah, I completely agree with Anna and Sarah. And I want to add one more thing is for Cerner, we actually have a very relatively young workforce. So, around the office, you'll see a lot of people around our age. And the good thing about it is that it helps the learning rate. So their statistics shows that the learning rate is at best in their 20s, and then slowly reduce in their 30s, and then by 50 it's like a sharp decline. So regardless of all the all the age matters, what I'm saying is that young professional is really important in the workplace, in the sense that they can gain the skill set really quickly, especially in an IT environment. For me, I come from the research and evaluation background, but I was able to learn a lot about IT in a very short amount of time. And it's just an example of how young professional can add value to the workplace. And also for young professional, especially for me in the field of social determinants of health, I will be able to bring into the table a discussion on something that is non-traditional in insurance claim data. For example, we only have binary genders in our claim data, but nowadays we need to talk about non-binary genders. We need to be inclusive of other categories. So we have to start that conversations. Another example is that when we think about race and ethnicity in claim data, we always see that a very short list of race and ethnicity. But what about nativity? What about US born and non-US born populations? So I think that it need to be included in the claim data. And I was the one who started that conversations. If we do not talk about it, how do we raise awareness, right?
That's wonderful, and kudos to you for bringing that into the conversation. I think that is a great example of kind of what Sarah mentioned, and talking about as part of maybe the younger half of the workforce, moving forward, we'll be the ones to shape the discourse and what's important. And so I love that you're already doing that. That's amazing. Well, great. So speaking of kind of the intergenerational differences and things, have you noticed any surprising similarities or differences between your work style in comparison to those who've been in the field much longer than you? So that was awesome information about how there's like scientifically proven, there's a difference in the learning curve, so to speak. But what about those younger than you? And, feel free to throw some examples out about specific in your company. But we can go ahead and start with Sarah again, if you like.
Yeah, my organization is also pretty young. Thankfully, I would say as a network at large, it's definitely diverse, which is awesome. And I'm not sure I have any very specific answers to this question, except maybe one, and I think that kind of goes with Pa's saying, is the way that you learn and collaborate might be a little different. So from what I've seen, it seems like the younger professionals maybe kind of like to collaborate and brainstorm through discussion a little bit more versus just communication styles, right? Versus emails might look different. How long you might spend brainstorming and creating like a consensus through a discussion, anything of that matter. But I think there's benefit to everything. I don't want to say at any way that like there shouldn't be a diversity in age within any network. I think diversity in all realms, age, gender, race, ethnicity, is important, right? And I think it's valuable to have both. Yeah, I would say maybe just the way that you discuss things a little bit more and brainstorm and collaborate might be a little bit different.
I think that was really well said. Anna, do you have a comment to add?
Yeah, I agree as well. And I do definitely think seeing the difference in writing styles, some that have been in my field longer, I feel are more explanatory in their emails, which is great because I have a better understanding versus, those who are newer in the field, it's more to the point, which I can also appreciate as well. So, but I also think too, one thing that I really do admire about those who have been in the field longer, that personal touch, especially, again, the digital age. So picking up the phone and actually calling someone, sending that personal thank you card, or just a note that you're thinking about them. And I am seeing a lot of that in our interns right now, and our newer staff. I am seeing them grasp onto that and carrying that with them, which I really just admire. So that's my 2 cents. So.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I do see all of that around in terms of collaborations with other coworkers. I do see that with an older age group, and the younger age group, we do have different communication style, and especially like in terms of email and telephone. So for me, I prefer everything written down in an email. But for maybe like my college who is a little bit older, they actually pick up the phone and talk to you. Or, when we're in the office, they can come talk to you at your desk. So it's really adding the personal touch to it. When we are like a younger professional, we're just like, okay, let's just put everything in emails, send it out, or like, summary everything in a Word document or in Excel spreadsheet and send it out to the team. So definitely see that difference in the communication style. And I really need to learn how to balance between that personal touch and also like the life in the digital world. Another thing that I find for my younger coworker is that just their ability to quickly grasp on a new subject. For us, we're an IT company, so many times we're like dealing with learning about like something really technical, a skill set. For example, we're learning about new Tableau functions on the new levels of details and how to visualize the graph, or we need learning about the new machine learning techniques like cat scoots. It would take me probably like days to just read through all of that and be able to apply to my work. But my younger coworkers, they just listen to the webinar. It takes them hours and then they finish their work. So I'm just like, how do you do that? It's just amazing, like how the learning rates are different between age groups. And I think for us, we're kind of like very close in terms of age, but at the same time, we still see that difference.
Absolutely. I think you all made great points on this. I mean, the value of having that diversity of age, right? Because you have those experiences where you might not have that skill set someone else does, right? And that personal touch that comes with maybe some of the older generations and things like that. And the efficiency, sometimes that's just mind-boggling with some of the younger ones. That's awesome. Well, and something too I want to take a moment to mention is, we're talking about diversity in the field, and it sounds like, we're lucky to have a couple panelists from organizations that really have promoted a young workforce and allowed opportunities there. But traditionally in the international space, at least in my understanding in the United States, it's been very male, right? And here we are, all women, and this is a pretty diverse panel, and typically it's been older, right, in government and in positions of power. And so I personally, as a younger member of the workforce, I love to see, as a woman, I love to see this. But definitely there's still different trends outside, I think, our organizations, right? And so on that, what has your company or organization been doing to bring younger professionals and people into roles of leadership? Because it sounds like, Sarah and Ha, your companies have been really successful in that, and maybe Anna, if you have any experience with that in your line of work as well,
Sure. I can definitely echo what Sarah said earlier. I really applaud PeopletoPeople International and the relationships that they have with the local universities here. We have great interns that have come to our staff or to our team. And what I love about it is they have them sit in different roles so they can have a better understanding as the organization as a whole. But my favorite part too is, the interns become our family and our friends. And PeopletoPeople International, when there is a job opening, they definitely reach out to those interns and say, is this something of interest? So I have been very fortunate to see interns become staff and be in different roles and then get into managerial positions. And I really applaud them again, because PeopletoPeople International is really trying hard to definitely mentor, empower so we can get into leadership roles. And so I think Global Ties is doing a great job with their interns, and hearing where Sarah is today, just again, it really excites me, because I'm thinking of some specific interns at the moment who they're going to be Sarah in just a few years. And so I'm so excited about that. And I really applaud them for taking the younger, the next professional generation to the next level. So.
Thank you, Anna. So yeah, Global Ties, I mean, it's a priority for the organization to prepare the next generation of global leaders. I mean, just hands down, that is one of our key issues right now. So we definitely do that through internships. I mean, we try and take in as many interns as possible, and do everything we can to develop them in their specific way that they're looking for. But in addition to that, we also have an initiative called the Diplomats Program, where literally the tagline is activating the next generation of global leaders. We're taking high school students for monthly sessions to do professional development, explore diplomacy and public affairs, but also develop their cultural competency, hopefully for some sort of global career, but regardless will be beneficial in the global society that we're going to have. So, really creating these skills within our youth, and like I kind of mentioned earlier, putting that investment in order to have a really capable workforce moving forward, hopefully in Kansas City.
Todd, do you have anything to add about Cerner and their work to recruit young people?
Yeah, so SONA is well known among communities to frequently recruit at local university job fairs. This is evidenced by we have a relative young workforce. So many of the associate, this is the first job that they have from college. And I'm really not sure how that works with work from home and social physical distancing right now, but I can safely assume that it's probably we're like expanding the horizon right now, in the sense that I think the next whatever come out from the pandemic, we'll probably see a hybrid workplace, and also remote work would probably be the new trends, the new normals. So it just means that we'll be able to recruit more younger folks who can living out of state in other places. So far, North America is acceptable regions to be work remotely. So after the pandemic, I really can see that we can see more younger people living in their own state. They can work remotely with SONA without moving away from their hometown. So that is my assumptions. And also in terms of SONA, we do have a culture of promotion from within. It's very well practiced across SONA. So it's really motivates us, the young professionals, to work towards our professional goals, and we strive to be better. So we have the policy that even the best can be better, right? So it's really helped us to be like, oh, we're becoming more veteran in fields, and we can get promotions with the opportunity to rise. So that is happening at SONA.
What a motto! The best can be better. I like that. That's interesting. So we've talked a lot, honestly, about why it matters that younger people are in the field. We talked about the value they bring and the difference of perspective and things like that. But in your experience, what challenges have you found as a younger professional working in sort of an international space? And what might have made that work challenging? What obstacles might you have encountered? And Ha, I'd actually like to start with you on this question, if that's okay.
Yes. I would say that the biggest challenge for me in terms of being an immigrant and living and working in the U.S. is the cultures. It's a cross-culture understanding. It's really not just about speaking the language fluently, both written and spoken language, but it was also about reading the lines, speaking the cultures, and not becoming an awkward foreigners. And sometimes, like in many social situations, that is becoming really awkward. For example, like sometime when I heard somebody talking about something really funny, but I wasn't 100% sure whether or not it's a joke, or should I laugh about it? So I just keep internalizing it in my head, keep thinking about it. And by the time I'm come to a conclusion, okay, I should laugh, then everybody has done laughing. So that's when I call it an awkward foreigner situations. But I take it as a part of the acculturations, and acculturation does not happen overnight. I wasn't born and raised in this culture, did not grow up in this culture to learn about all of the social situation and what I should be doing in that specific situation, and what my understanding of that situation may be very different from the American perspective of that specific situations. So I take it as a lifelong process. So I don't stress myself, but I open to learning about it every single day. I'm open to learning about every new situations, either like social situation or some others, like the pandemic or an environmental crisis. We just need to be open about learning about new things every day. And another thing is that for me, it's really not, it's not about just trying to fit in the new culture so that I'm being accepted by that culture, but it's also not losing my identities and not losing my cultures. For example, I celebrate all of American holidays. So, 4th of July is my favorite because the weather is nice and I can do barbecue with all of my friends and families in Kansas City. It's really my favorite because summer is my favorite season in the sense that, I was from Vietnam. It's a tropical country, so it's hot and humid all the time. And summers here is very similar to summer back home. So that's my favorite. But at the same time, I also celebrate my own Vietnamese holidays. And I take time off. I really take time off to spend that precious time with my family back home.
I think that's super valuable. And, I love what you said. It's a balance between, being able to communicate, but maintaining your own identity, right? And I think obviously, like, we're living in a more globalized world than probably we ever have before, with this conversation as an example of that. And I think hopefully, the organizations that I work for and that we all work for are hoping to bridge, and create opportunities like that for people from all over the world to work together and maintain their identities, but learn from one another. So I love what you said. And Anna or Sarah, do you have anything to add about maybe the challenges you found here in the United States or working as a younger professional and getting your voice heard in the field? If not, that's okay.
The only other thing that I think I can add, and maybe Sarah, you can also agree or disagree, but I always love being an advocate and ambassador of PeopletoPeople International, especially like in the extracurricular activities that I'm doing. And I feel that sometimes so many people are like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, you work for an international organization, but they put me into almost a bubble, and I'm like, no, we can work together still. We can bring our local organizations here in Kansas City and we can have synergy and still make an impact. And so I think for me, it's that informing and educating on don't close this off because we are international. We are just as much local as well. We want to just make sure to continue to find that synergy in other organizations. So I don't know, Sarah, if that's something that has ever been something that you've experienced or not. That's just one thing that I always love, just being an advocate and changing the perspective. I'm like, you're right, we can send our students to your Global Youth Forum here in Kansas City. You're right, we can create a student chapter. And so I think that's something that it's a challenge that I love taking.
Absolutely, Anna, I would second that. And that's definitely something we've experienced as well. Just like Ha said at the beginning, local impact, but global perspective all the time, right? And exactly. Specifically as like a younger professional, I would say the only other thing I might kind of throw out there was, especially at the beginning of my career, I mean, I became a program manager pretty early on when I was pretty young, and just the really basic concept of being like taken seriously was an issue at first, for sure. These international visitors coming in and me designing their programs, and then I was controlled their program. I created their itinerary. I was managing all the different logistics. But then them just instinctively going to like the bus driver to like ask about like these program meeting resources because he was a middle-aged male. It's like, oh no, like let's talk about it with me. Was kind of an issue, and I think that's something that's was dealt with, and you have to push through it, and then to the point where it's not an issue anymore. Right. But it was also kind of one of those situations where you can almost take it as like a challenge of like, yes, absolutely, I am the one who designed your program. Welcome, and we're going to be working together closely the next few days. Right. Situation.
I can't agree with you more. I definitely had that in the beginning of my career. You know, I was given a new assignment. I thought, well, I'm good at X, Y, and Z, but this is new to me. And, you know, I was very open and honest, like, hey, this is what I can bring to the table. Can you help me? And then next thing you know, it was gaining that respect though. And I think one thing is sometimes we are, you know, we will say like, okay, like, yeah, I can do this, no problem. But in your head, you're like, okay, I need to process things. Well, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need you to give me some advice on how to do this well. And I can totally agree with you on that, Sarah, and in the beginning of my career too. And so, yes, so much respect for you on that. And I'm feeling it like totally 2016 right now happening all over, just hearing you. So.
Exactly. And I love how you kind of rounded that out by saying you can always solve by asking questions. I think that's key for sure.
So what would you say, we're getting close to, you know, kind of wrapping up, and I have just a few questions left, but what would you say young leaders need to be successful, right? And what can organizations do better to support them? Ha, if you want to start maybe, and then we can work to Anna and Sarah on that question. You know, what would have been helpful maybe for you when you were starting your career, or even now that, you know, organizations should be doing? Maybe yours already is.
Yeah, so for me, I think not only being like a subject matter experts in the fields, but also required all soft skills that needed to be successful as a young leaders. So as I mentioned, there's many things that I still need to balance it out in terms of communication skill. So, you know, balance it out between like a personal touch and also like how you write an email, put everything in one Word document and send it out. So that is something that I'm still learning right now. And another soft skill that I think that young leaders need to be acquire is really the active listening skill. So how we like listen to people, how do we like internalize all of what information, and then we'll just talk back to them. And so those are really important skill sets that young leaders really need to be acquire all of that to be successful. And I think in terms of what my organization has been doing to support that is that we do have compensations such as tuition reimbursements for a degree or certificate that proven to be strengthening the skill set, and the skill set not just only about the subject matter expert, but it's also about soft skill. And then there's also degree, like higher degrees like MBA, MPH, or Master in Statistics that is also fully reimbursed in our companies. And then another thing that I think Sonos is doing really good job at it is really creating the forums, the work groups, and the communities in which young professionals like us can share the work experience and really learn the soft skills from each other.
I definitely agree with what Ha said, especially in an aspect of listening. Definitely take that time to be a good listener. I've even had to learn that over time as well, because I love to talk and I have to tell myself, okay, take it in. You know, and I'm going to just repeat myself from what I said earlier too. You know, if you don't know something, say it. There are people that are here to help you. They want you to grow. And so I think definitely raising your hand. And if you have a question, ask it. I'll be honest, there were times early in my career where I'd be like, well, I have this question, but okay, no one else is asking. I guess I'm not going to ask. And they're like, no, ask, because if you are asking, you might be answering that question for someone else. But I also think too, is just, again, just be true to yourself, get involved in the community, and tell your organization, you know, this, I've always been very transparent with my short-term goal is this for myself, but this is where I'd like to see myself. This is where I'd like to see myself in the picture of my organization. And one thing that I can really say where organizations can come through and just by encouraging, supporting, bringing you to the table to be a part of the conversation, having you, even if you're going to an event, you know, having your bosses, you know, being able to have you a part of that conversation and just introduce you to the people that are in that room, because you are the next generation. So take it all in, because you will be in those shoes one day with time. And so I think those are just a few things that I think can really make a difference for someone going into the field.
Yeah, I would third everything that's been said, and kind of, you know, putting it back into what organizations can do. It is really establish a strong support support system, kind of what's been hinted at, but just creating a situation where younger professionals can ask the questions that they're going to have. If it's a new experience, people are going to have questions. It's very natural. And I think making sure culturally that we allow for the younger professionals, the new professionals to come in and be a little confused and take time to, develop themselves professionally is really important. I think it's forgotten sometimes. But thankfully, I'm in an organization that is just really, really beneficial when it comes to supporting those younger generations. And I think it's also really important to have some autonomy when it comes to project work. So, being able to have the situations like where you can even just put on your resume, as an employee, I've, fully implemented this project. It is really key. And I think that's just being a little bit more specific and tangible, in addition to what the other two have said, of course. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't agree more with almost everything that everyone has said today, not just in relation to the last question. We are getting close to our time. And so I want to offer you a chance, all of you, to share any last thoughts you might have about, your career trajectory. Apologies, I haven't had my coffee this morning. Or your field, or the future of it, or any advice you might have for professionals like us. And you're welcome just very briefly to share your thoughts if Anna, you would like to start.
Yeah, I actually took some notes on this one because I really had to think. And, I feel like in today's current state, I believe international understanding and sensitivity is very important. And I think that's where many people are going to be looking to our organizations and us as individuals in our roles to have a better understanding of how we can do more and be better, and especially in the world that we're in. And so I know each and every one of us will always be happy to have our door open, to be that person that can give our 2 cents and hopefully help someone who does have questions. And so I think especially and the pandemic and everything that we're living in right now too, it has put a very big pause on a lot of things, but there's been so many, in an unfortunate circumstance, there has been some great things that have come about it. And I'm just looking forward to the human connection again and getting to see everyone and eventually for us to travel and to remember that human connection when we're abroad and being a representation of our organization, city, country, and all. So I thank you so much for this opportunity. This has just been wonderful. And I want it to keep going because I just loved it so much.
Sarah, do you have any final thoughts to share?
Yes, I have 2. So I want to reiterate my first one to being, international relations is an investment, and it's so important for the younger generation to be part of that conversation for the issues to grow together when it comes down to it, since the younger generation is going to be the one to determine what's important in the future. So that's my first thought. My second thought is it's actually really relaying a situation that happened to me that's kind of shaped how I go about my professional career. So when I was 18 years old, I went to my very first conference with a bunch of people who've been in network forever. I was very intimidated, but I pretended not to be. And I went up to this group of women who I've never met before, and they asked me, "Oh, how have things been going? How have things been going?" And I go, "Oh, it's been great. You've been really welcoming." And they look at me and she goes, "Of course we've been welcoming. Don't you know what field we're in?" And honestly, from that moment, it made me realize that, when it comes down to it, international relations, it's all about people and connection. And so having a network is key, and reaching out to people is natural. And so even, when it comes down to it, my biggest advice is network, ask questions, and reach out to people because we're welcoming, and that's what we're here to do anyway.
That's wonderful. Ha, do you have any final thoughts to round us out before we close?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I came to the US 11 years ago, knowing nothing about the world at that time. So I always have a message for myself, my younger self, 11 years earlier, and which was also applicable to the younger professionals, I believe. So my message is that to celebrate your victories. You work hard, you earn it, you become successful, you celebrate it, you celebrate big. But you also need to be open to learning opportunities and criticism. And for us, we really need to accept and reflect on our mistakes. So we know that nobody is perfect and everyone makes mistakes sometimes, but it's just for us, we're younger. So we have more time to correct our mistakes. So that's my message.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I love what you said about when you have a success or whatever, celebrate it and celebrate it big. I think that's really valuable for all of us to do. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing your expertise, Anna, Sarah, and Ha. I know I speak for the group, the IRC, the audience, when I say I enjoyed it and I learned so much. I do want to briefly mention that we were talking about opportunities earlier, and I want to share with the audience that the IRC is hiring a full-time global education coordinator. So if any young people or younger professionals in the international space are looking for a new position, we are hiring, and check out our website for more information. And then, of course, if I could have a moment of everyone's time who's attended today, I did post a survey link in the chat box. We would love it. There's only 3 questions. We would love it if you could fill it out and let us know what you're looking for in a program, and we will do our best to provide that to you. And lastly, remember that we have events all throughout the day today, so we will have to close for the next program for Global Horizons, but we encourage anyone attending to check it out online and sign up to an event you haven't been to before. Thank you so much, Anna, Sarah, and Ha. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.